We're back once again. I'm coming to you from my porch. David here with Nick in his normal spot.
My new normal, okay? I say, I used to be a basement dweller. I have to go
Yeah,
back there in the winter.
we're
So,
both sporting our respective pride hats for
yeah.
our baseball teams. And Nick, I have some really exciting beers to talk about today.
Say, actually, you know what? Let's before we talk about our beers,
Okay.
let's talk about who we are. I mean, we are now officially Bucks and Brews, right?
Correct.
So we're talking about Bucks, we're drinking brews. So now what brew do you have, David?
So I have three lovely cider selections today. I have a Blackberry hard cider from Sierra Rose, which is actually Cascade Winery or Jade and James Brewery.
Oh yeah.
Right here in Grand Rapids. I'm really excited to try this one because I love Blackberry. From St. Julian, I have the Forbidden Fruit Blackberry and Blueberry
Okay.
hard cider. And the one I am the most excited about is from Blake's. It's a triple jam
There
hard
we go.
cider.
I say, that sounds pretty good.
I'm very excited about that. Strawberry, blackberry, and raspberry. And I'm going to crank that puppy open.
start out with it. Here we go. Uh, you know, we're talking about real estate, and that's kind of my market, right? My go-to. So, what better than the good old Nick Watkins Bud Light, right? And Anheuser Busch. Here we go. I say I'm drinking a couple Bud Lights tonight. Very excited about this episode, right? I hope the passion shows on this thing, man.
Yeah, so if you don't know, we are going to talk about obtaining your first rental property, which that is kind of Nick's forte. So he's going to do a whole lot of talking. I'll be asking some questions, and let's just hit it. Nick, so you started investing in rental properties very, very young.
I did, yeah. Let's say I was 21 when I bought my first rental. Right, so a little backstory. Right, I got married really young, 21. I bought my first house. Right, because that's what you did. You got married, you bought a house, you made sure you had a roof and all that. So before that, I lived at home and I didn't have rent. I paid the normal kid bills, I guess is what I call them, insurance and things like that. But so I jumped into a payment of $750, and it was fine, right? I had a job and I paid it, but I went from having my whole paycheck to doing whatever I wanted to now I have like a third of my paycheck, right, or 2/3 of my paycheck, and then I have all this food I have to buy, and so like life just, and it was fine, we were doing okay, but the back of my mind I was like, well, is there a way to get back to that, right? So I had 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms in Granville, and what happened was somebody on Facebook was like, hey, I'm looking for at least 4 bedrooms, and they threw a price out there, and it was 900 and something bucks, 950 let's say, and I was like, well, that's $200 more than what my mortgage is, and I was like, well, if I could find somebody for that, maybe I can find something else, and so I found a duplex. This is back in the economy is tanked, 2010. So it's starting to get the climb. I wish I would have known that like back then were low prices, but it's fine. So I reached out to a realtor friend of mine. The guy I bought it for, he actually pawned me off to a different person and was like, hey, this guy knows about real estate or rentals. So I talked to my mortgage broker and I was like, hey man, is this something I can do? And he goes, yeah. I go, run the numbers, and he goes, all right, your payment here is going to be $600. The guy downstairs is paying $600. You'll be making $200 over here. And I was like, I'm making $200 and paying my mortgage. Like, this is great. I forgot that when you no longer have a homestead exemption, right? Your taxes go up, doubled. So right, I wasn't cash flowing, but I didn't. I probably broke even or minus repairs and things like that, but I didn't have this constant $700 bill on my hands. So that was only 6 months, maybe 8 months after I bought my first house. I kind of bought my first rental, and in that time, 6 months. So I bought my first rental. I went 8 months into it. I went 6 months into it. Sorry, and I met a guy who who happened to own quite a few properties. David and I, before this, were talking. I'm actually looking to purchase some more from him. I bought an 8-unit from him just over a year ago. He's selling a 64 unit and a 24 unit. And we put in offers tonight and got some feedback. So we're in negotiation on that. And that's really exciting for me. To grow to that level is just insane to think of where I come from just, 10, 11 years ago. So that being said, back to the rental, I met this guy and I showed him my lease, and the lease was a lined piece of paper that looked like a bill of sale, right? So when you sell a car, you think about, hey, I Nick sold David this car as is for this price. And this guy looks at me and he's like, you got to be crapping me. He's like, let me know when that blows up in your face. And I was like, what are you talking? So he, shows me this 5-page lease. He shows me all these addendums, and everything. And built a relationship off of that, right? And we've become great friends from then on. Hey, Don.
Don's bringing me food.
There we go. So, I pretty much bought my rental to replace the money that I was spending, right? And then when I realized that it works, so, then we go, so at 6 months, I meet a guy. 9 months, what he said happened, right? It blew up in my face. These people are like, hey, we can't afford to live here anymore. And so I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you told me you could, and it was fine. So, my wife and I talked about it. Do we rent that house for more money? Because I'd started learning, honestly, I could have gotten back then $1,500, now like $1,800 out of that house or something, right? It's big. And I was like, do you want to make big, money there? Or do you want to just rent this one for a lower price? And she decided she wanted to move back to our big house. And that taught me to rent my first rental of the spot I lived in, and how to do a lease and everything, right? I had my mentors help in step by step of what to do and how to do it. And, first one happened pretty easy, and I learned from it. So, that was my story of how I got started in rental real estate. So
let me ask you something.
Yep.
How important is it to have a mentor?
For me?
Yeah.
It's everything, right? When I talked about having that lease, I mean, coming from a person that didn't know anything, right? I didn't know, I just knew that people rented a place and you agreed upon something, right? Like, I'm a very trusting person. So if you know nothing, find somebody that actually knows something, right? I said the opportunity came to me because my wife's grandfather said, hey, I know a guy that owns some properties. Come to find out, he owned, over 300. I mean, he owned, and, I was smart enough to understand that, hey, if anybody owns, and I said, if anybody owns one or more for longer than 6 months, they know more than me, right? I think even people that rented instead of buying first, right, they have more knowledge because they've probably signed a lease. I never did that. So, so if you know nothing, right, find somebody that knows exactly what they're doing. To me, it was huge, right? I mean, there's people out there that can do it because, they do all the book research, and I'm not a reader. I don't go chase the knowledge, right? I just come up with an idea and then go for it, I mean, I build a business off of just, hey, this is the basics, and here we go, and I'll learn it along the way. So, right? There's people that sit back and just read about it and never take action, and then there's people like me who are just like, let's take action and we'll figure it out. It'll come together, And if it blows up, who cares, I always knew I had the money to pay for my house, worst case scenario, right? So if I lost my rental, that was fine. I also told myself if I lost my house, I just end up back where I started in my mom's basement. I mean, to me, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. I didn't have a kid at the time. I had a wife that I had to make happy, but she's, I love her for the fact that, she was willing to do that. So that face just says that beer was amazing.
It is amazing.
Hey,
I still got a little bit left.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
well, because we coached together, one of the things I used to like to tell the kids we coached was the only stupid question is the one you don't ask. Okay.
true.
You don't know what you don't know. So if you have that question, ask it. If somebody makes you feel like a fool for asking it, they're jackass, move on.
Yeah, they say there's a million people doing this, right? I mean, well over a million people.
Yeah.
So, you know, I I know we're talking about first rentals, but I'll give you a scenario. So I walked into my first real estate investor group, right? And here I just thought this was like a bunch of people that like own, I thought they were all my mentors type thing. Like they all owned so much and they were just a group of guys getting, and I was like, man, I'm gonna get in. Well, like I sit down and 90% of the people there are just they're trying to learn how to buy their first one. They're people that are watching this, like, hey, I want to know how to do this. And so I felt like right in the middle. I didn't own the most, and I at least had some. So there's groups out there. There's so many ways to get connected with people with knowledge. Here, I'm not a member of it right now, but there's groups that will, they have all your leasing documents, they have everything. But I have a mentor that has all that for me, so I kind of use that. But if he sells me this place, I no longer have his use of all that stuff, so I'll have to do it all myself. But
Well, I know, like with me, I've gone to a lot of conventions for coaching. And the thing I've always learned is if you're willing to talk to somebody, which I'm not always willing to talk to somebody, but if you're willing to talk to somebody, they want to give you their knowledge because they want to see you successful.
yeah.
It's not one of those things where everybody's out to get you. So is that kind of what you see with the community of people you deal with, Nick?
I would say yes for the most part, right? You're always going to have that one or two that they don't necessarily want to see you succeed. They want you to bring them everything, right? So they want you to do the work so they succeed. But they're still going to give you some of the knowledge, right? We talk about it all the time, David. I mean, I give away more knowledge than for free than most people. One, because I know that, we talked about that with the episode with TJ, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't take that, what I say, and actually go do it. So for me to give it away, I mean, the chances of them competing with me, and even if they do compete with me, let's say that they get into a chance where they can buy two places and they're like, I'm not sure which one. I'll be like, hey, you pick one and I'll pick the other and I'm probably going to buy it. So if they're two good deals, if they can't take, so, I see that happening, but I think, I would say the people I keep around want to see everybody succeed. The people I associate with, right? You'll never catch us not giving knowledge. My friends are starting to get into it more, and they're not meeting with these first time people like I am, because right, I mean they're just, again, usually it's a waste of time because again 90% aren't actually going to do it. So they're at this, hey, if you need knowledge at a different level, then we'll talk. But if you buy me a beer, I'll go sit and talk to you. I think that's what it should be, right? In the community of real estate investors, right? My suggestion is find an older person, just because that's who I get along with the most, because they've been there, they know the hardship, and they'll teach you what not to do to make sure that you don't have the same life they had of hardship, right? And that's how I become successful, right? I listened to Walt, and Walt, he just, hey, this is what I did to fail. This is what I did to succeed. If you do this, you'll succeed. If you do this, I can't say you'll fail, but you have a pretty good probability, right? And so knowing that, I usually don't make that decision. I mean, I still make mistakes like crazy, and I call him and he bails me out. So, I went through everybody's scared of evictions, and we talk about mentorship. Like I've had an eviction, and right, I'm the kind of person where I take action right away, and so I freak out. Like if things don't get handled right away, and evictions take like 45 days. And so like my heart's going for 45 days and the stress, but it's just like I have him in the background just going, hey buddy, you're going to be all right, man. This happens every day. He goes, I own 300 or whatever. You think, think every month I I don't at least have to deal with one note that says, hey, you owe me money, or one this. So I say I want to make this episode definitely not just about me, but I want to give you guys advice, right? So I think when we're looking at rental real estate and you're going for your first one, everybody's situation is so different. Okay. Not everybody's wife wants to move to a 2-bedroom duplex from a house, right? People aren't going to make that happen. Yeah, we did it because we could put 3.5% down. We did it because we seen the potential. We didn't have kids, right? So if you're with kids, there's a chance that it's not going to happen. So you're going to have to put 25 or on a duplex or whatever, 25% down. If you buy a single family, you'll put 20% down for conventional mortgages, and it's all possible. So it's just a matter of how bad do you want it, right? If you're a single guy and you buy your first rental that way, now your first rental could be your first deal, right? So technically, my first rental was my first house. We owned, again, 5 bedrooms. So I had a family member that wanted a spot, and I was like, hey, I'll rent you this room for a little bit of money. And that's kind of what gave me the knowledge of like, oh, I could totally, rent this. So everything is getting a name to it now. So it's called house hacking, right? So you buy a 4-bedroom, you're a single guy, let's say, David, and Mike usually joins us for those people that are watching or listening. We have another guy that joins us, but so Mike is David's best friend, and he has another Mike. So let's say those two move in and they pay you rent. Well, there's a chance that they're paying you rent, you're paying off the mortgage with their money. So you're house hacking it, and the fact that, you're just enjoying the space with people that you kind of know. So, I know I have people now where they're Airbnb-ing their entire house. So they only accept 1 week at a time. And when they rent their house out, they rent it for great money. So they cover their mortgage pretty much for 1 week. And then during that week, they go in vacation. So it's a guaranteed vacation for them because they can't be in their house. So they take and they go up north, and, they spend a little bit of money, but they go to a cheaper hotel, or they go to, whatever. And, so every month, they usually get at least 1 week a month, and they rent it out and they go live their life. So there's many ways to do your first investment house. Nothing's perfect. Nothing's going to be the right move. You have to figure out what you want to do. And my knowledge is to, excuse me, my knowledge is to give you guys all those types of options. We touched base a little bit on financing, right? So if you occupy it, so I bought my first house with, back then it was allowed as a 5% conventional mortgage. So and FHA is a government backed loan, right? So Fannie Mae and Freddie. So because I moved into my second place, technically I was owner occupying it. I got to put 3.5% down on an FHA duplex because you can do 4 units and less to qualify. So to me, it was a no-brainer and a great head start because I didn't have to drop 20% right away. You can conventional mortgage, again, we talked about 20% and 25% for anything above 2 to 4 units. If you don't occupy it, if you want to start out with bigger things, I know of a couple, let's say you go to 5-6 unit, you have to do a commercial loan on that. You're going to have to put 20% down guaranteed. When you finance those things through a bank, there's no way to really avoid that. So let's say you're a young kid, 18 years old, have $0 to your name, and everybody talks about $0 investing, right? Yes. Is it possible? Yes, right? So it wasn't my first, but it was one of mine. So I bought a foreclosure, and I'll give you guys real numbers because I like to. It's not a brag, but I think people need to know what possibilities are out there. So the house was owed $86,000 on it. is how much you could buy it back from the bank. The house back then was worth $180,000. So instantly, there's $94,000 worth of equity in this house. And so what I did was I put it up on Facebook. I said, hey, I have a screaming deal. I need somebody that has a bunch of cash. And one of my first realtor, he's like, hey, I know a guy who does hard money. I was like, I don't know hard money. And he's like, look, it's legal loan sharking, right? They're going to charge you a higher percent, because right now interest rates are what, 3.5%. We talked to TJ. TJ got less than 3.
Right.
So I have to pay. So, right. But this guy, my first deal, I think he charged me 14% or something like that, plus 3 points. And points are 1% based off of your price, right? So $8,600, for per each point thing. So, I was like, all right, it's going to cost me, I think it was only like a point or whatever. So it cost me 86. And then while I was doing this, I got funded by this guy in 2 weeks. It was amazing because I was like, hey, we have to close by this exact date. And he's like, man, there's so much equity. He goes, yep, I know this area. Yeah, we'll give you the money. And I didn't have to put anything down. It was interest-only payments for 6 months, and then I could hold it I could start making payments, up to a year. And if I paid it off early, that's where it cost me some points, right? So I was like, okay, I'm going to pay it off. So during that time, because I was going to occupy the place, again, being owner, I reached back out to my mortgage broker so that's a big player on my team. Guys, I'm going to give a big shout out to Rob De La Torre, mortgage broker. We've never met in person. We've never shaken hands. I've done 8 transactions with this guy. Just purchases, multiple refis. He lives in a house on the lake, and I still live here, but so I've given him plenty of money. But right, so mortgage brokers are the people that tell you, yes, you can get money, right? And money is what buys this game. So I was like, hey, I need to refinance this thing in less than a month because I don't want to make a payment. And so he got started right away, before we were even closed on the first part of the deal. And I went to closing a month later, paid off my 86,000 plus my 3 points, paid my broker, for his money, plus the technically it was a refinance for that. So in the end, I paid $101,000 for my house, right? Now, right, it's worth, I don't know, 230, 240, whatever it is. I haven't had it appraised in forever, but I just knew that worst case scenario, I could sell it tomorrow and make 50, 60, 70K. I mean, it was really smart for me. So, and out of pocket, I honestly, I think I might have paid $125 for a drive-by appraisal that they wouldn't let me pay out of my pocket, or that they wouldn't roll into the loan. So I can't say $0, but I really think I did that deal with $0. I really do, because the numbers were just so good. I don't even think they needed it. Right, there's $0. You can do that. You can do a land contract. Let's say you are kind of like TJ, out in the middle of nowhere, and you have it's hard to sell that rural area stuff because, right, you have to sell to a family that kind of wants to stay in that area. So, let's say a parent passes away or something like that, and the family doesn't really want to deal with it. So you kind of walk up to that family and say, hey, how about I buy it from you? I'll make monthly payments so that way you guys guarantee to have a monthly income. And we'll pay it off that way, right? I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen every deal, but that's a possibility, right? You just walk up to them and say, hey, how about instead of you getting this big lump sum, and because most people don't need, older in age, they don't need $80,000. Like, their houses are probably close to paid off. All they're going to do is just go spend it on stupid stuff, and they know it. So they're like, hey, I'll pay you $7,000, $8,000, $1,000, whatever, depending on the area and what it's worth. You just say, hey, I'll pay you $700 a month, and I'll pay the taxes and all that. But I don't have anything to put down. But I'll put first month down, so it'll cost you $700 to get into it. And so then, right, you buy it from them on a land contract for the agreed upon price, and could you do it on a low interest rate? Yes, I have a friend that has one with, I think state minimum is like 1.2% interest or something, but he always pays cash. But the guy wouldn't take. He didn't want to sell them outright because he had to pay taxes on. He bought like 30 all at once, so he's like, I'm gonna pay bare minimum, and you're knocking it off the price. So he's like, okay. So it was all built in, but it was there's so many possibilities to finding your first deal, to how much money you want to put into it, how little of money you want to put into it. They're really, and I look at, right now, if I look to the left of me, my neighbor's not just going to sell me his house because the next one's probably right. I mean, it's going to be the one out of 10,000 that's going to say yes, but when you look at how many houses are in this, even in Michigan, there's hundreds of thousands, right? If not a million houses. So if I can be the one of, I mean, I'm happy with that. So.
Well, and I know, when you started doing this, I kind of want you to talk about kind of the influences that pushed you into, hey, this is a great idea. Because I know, when you originally told me, obviously, some of us were great students in high school, some of us weren't. I mean, I'm super smart, but my high school GPA is like 1.5 points lower than my college GPA.
Sure.
But I know there was somebody very influential that said, hey, buy rentals.
Yeah. So, right. When it comes to learning, I'm not a school learning kind of person, right? I have grunt hands. My father was a mechanic, I mean, we come from a line of workers. My other half of my family's construction and stuff like that. So, or warehousing, which I ended up in warehousing for the longest time. So when I was in school, I got so fortunate to break my collarbone. I was going to a tech center. I was going to a tech center, and I was going for cabinet building, right? Because I love to I love to play with wood. So, I thought I would. Yeah, I thought I would end up doing that, and like 2 days in to the school, I broke my collarbone, and so they're like, hey, you can't do anything in here, so we can no longer accept you. So I got sent back to school, and the only classes available were business classes. And I actually took a parenting class, which I'm going to brag here. I had the second highest grade and the first highest score of taking care of a baby. I sleep really light, so like when it cried, I was like ready for this thing. So that's what makes me a great parent with my kid. So this baby. But so anyway, I took this business class, and I was really scared to take it. I think it was, marketing or management, one of the two. I was like, oh man, I don't know anything about that. But I get in the class, and the first day the teacher's like, all right, we're gonna watch a John Stossel on TV, and so he just throws a movie on, and most people are like, oh, his class is a joke, and part of it is, right, because you'll catch somebody else, but when he talked, right, that's where the biggest thing came from. He's like, yeah, I used to own a jewelry shop, and I did this, and he'd tell you where you can get your jewelry, but then he's like, hey, I own some real estate, and he goes, if you want to be successful in life, you own a business or you own real estate, and you can never go wrong with real estate. He goes, the stock market goes up 10%, but real estate, right, there's always going to be a value to it. There's never going to be free houses, right? You're never going to pay $0. Yes, you'll have zero out of pocket, but you'll always make a payment on it. And so he's like, you'll always have some type of value. And when he talked, I listened, and so after the first year of watching first semester of watching movies, I was like, man, I'm going to sign up for this. So I took all 7 other classes that this guy offered, and every time he would be like, even in the sales class, he's like, all right, we're going to do sales pitches, sell real estate, sell a car, he goes, invest in real estate. And just the knowledge of saying, I mean, this guy's teaching, and he's like, you want to be, he goes, I make more money doing real estate than I do being a teacher, but I love being a teacher and I have a passion. And I was like, okay. I mean, the back of my mind has always kind of been there of like, that's what it is. It was really cool. I'm an admin on a real estate investor page here in Metro Grand Rapids. And so a friend and I started up, and a kid actually just last week said, hey, I think I remember you. You came in and taught a lecture in John Schwam's class. And I was like, yes, I did. So once a year I go back and give back to, you know, the kids that were there. And because I want to reiterate, hey, success doesn't look great. I mean, I'm not the best looking guy in the whole world. I mean, but I listened when he talked, and I was like, hey, you know, this is what I own. I'd bring up my own properties. I'd be like, this is what I own. This is what I cash flow. I wasn't cocky. I was just trying to prove to these kids. I was like, here, this is my net worth, right? And I'd circle it on the thing. And I was like, it's not, I'm just showing you there's so much more than sitting here every day going, I don't know what I'm going to do when I get out of here. Always know that there's something more that you could be doing. When I was younger, right, again, I was only taught you're a mechanic or you're in the warehousing or, you know, or manufacturing. And I was like, manufacturing, we know you just stand there and you get a paycheck every week, right? You know, mechanic and auto body and stuff like that, right? As hard as you work is as much as you make. Nobody showed me how easy real estate is. I mean, yeah, you have the hiccups, and you can, for those that are watching, right? So let's say your first investment, you don't want that. Everybody always says, I don't want that 3 a.m. phone call. I don't want to get woke. I don't want all this headache. And that's fine. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is, you know, honestly, you do want that phone call because that means something's wrong with your place and you have to get over there and shut that water off right now. Yeah. I want the call because I want my tenants to know, hey, I need to fix things right now before it causes too much damage. You know, they don't call me for stupid stuff. I don't get a light bulb call at 3 a.m. But in my 11 years of doing this, I think the latest phone call I got was 11 o'clock, right? Normally it's a text of, hey, just to let you know this, you know, or something like that. But but if you don't want those and you think that that's a big thing, you can get what's called a property manager, right? So you find a good deal and you can have a property manager for, I don't know, 8%. Everybody says 10% depending on your area. But so let's say you rent it out for $1,000. They're going to take $100, but they're going to place the tenant for you. They're going to do all the backgrounds. They're going to collect the rent for you. They're going to do all the repairs for you. They're going to get it all handled. So you're hands off. You just sit there and collect money. Now, if you find a screaming deal where, let's say your mortgage is only $500 and you can afford the $100, that's fine. But again, having the mentor, my mentor taught me, hey, if you don't run it, if you don't manage it, you're not owning it the way that you would. And if you wouldn't own it in the highest caliber and hold yourself to the highest standard, why are you in this business, right? And I agree with him. I'm like, if I can't do it, why would I expect anybody else to do it? And yes, I don't type my own papers. Why would I expect other people? I mean, I'm willing to, but I know that my money will buy that so David can type my papers because I type one letter at a time.
Are you saying 73 words a minute is fast or something?
I don't know. I think I'm at like, hold on, BEER. I got like a word a minute, brother. So.
But I think one of the things we really want to hit on here, and Nick said it several times, you need to talk to people. You need to make those connections. So when you're passionate about something, so let's say you're passionate about real estate or finances or whatever it may be, you need to network and find people that also share that passion with you. That way you can learn from them. I became a better coach because I surrounded myself with really good coaches. You know, I went and found college coaches that did things that I wanted to do. So I stole stuff from them and I'd send them an email and I'd say, hey, I really liked this. Can you give me some more information? And they'd literally just open up their whole world to me. And you know, when it comes to finances or real estate. So, you know, when we're talking here, Nick is the real estate guy. He knows all of the real estate. I'm the finance guy. I know all of the finance. And we both sit there, and the first thing we tell everybody, you need a budget. right?
Yeah.
So I know that I've probably done 3 financial consults in the last month because of what we do here. And every time they're coming to me and they're like, hey, listen, I don't really want to go on, your YouTube thing, but I need some help with this, or I need some help with that, or, I want to buy a house, or I want to clear up my credit, or, I want to create a budget. And what they're doing is they're reaching out because they know I have knowledge and I don't mind sharing it.
Yeah.
I don't get paid to share that knowledge. I don't care about getting paid to share that knowledge. I like to sit there and talk about money. I mean, Nick and I, we've said this in every episode we've done. We like talking about this. We do this together without a camera on.
Yeah.
We decided, when the pandemic hit, let's do it with a camera on, and maybe some people can find some good stuff out of the crap we say. And really, I think a lot of people have.
Oh man, I think just in the, I don't even know what we've done, 15 episodes, maybe less.
Dude, we've done more.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
But dude, we already got a guy that bought a house. We've gotten people that have started budgeting. I mean, I think we've impacted more people than we know, and it's amazing, right? I think every time we go out and we talk to somebody, they're like, hey, I watched your YouTube, and it's just, it comes out of nowhere, and you're like, wow, I didn't even know you did. Like,
yeah,
we love the feedback. We love those things. But, right, budgeting, especially in real estate. So, when you budget for groceries, I mean, I think most people, their highest expense is their house, right? I mean, once in a while you get the person that has a $700 car payment and a $400 rent, but they probably don't, again, they don't own the house, they rent. So, if you don't have a grasp on budgeting, I can't say you're going to fail. I will never say that, because I think everybody can overcome things, but there's a high success, right? If you can't put away, let's say on my 2 deals, right, I had $700 and $600 payments, so that's $1,300. If I can't put away $1,300 every month to guarantee I pay that mortgage, or those mortgages, I'm not going to have that asset for that long of a time. One thing that you said I think is huge for me in my business. There's extroverts and introverts. I'm definitely an extrovert. I will talk to anybody and everybody. And that's what's gotten me a little bit more success, because of, because I definitely ask, I do those things. I find every piece of knowledge that anybody might know, and I'm just like, okay, I just want to know, right? What are you doing? How are you doing it? And some people do things I would never do. They do things that I don't agree with, or what, it's just not how I do things, but it works for them, right? Because it's not how I build things. It doesn't mean it's wrong. Again, I don't use a property manager. I'm not saying it's wrong. I have a million people tell me, oh, you could get so much bigger if you used a property manager. But I know if I have a property manager, it's not like I'm just going to go focus on a million other deals. I'm just going to be like, oh, I got this same thing. So my time, I'm always going to think about it. And since I'm always going to think about it, I want to be managing it. I think, right. And every time I talk to somebody, I build a relationship. And so I'm just known for the guy that knows people, right? I used back at my old job, I used to get made fun of because, oh man, oh, Nick knows everybody. And I'm like, if you ask me, oh, hey, I want an entertainer. I'm like, I know magicians. I know people that climb ropes. I know bouncy house people. I mean, you name it, I probably know, I know it. Oh, you know a guy that does skydiving. I'm like, yes, I have a friend that used to own a skydive company. I mean, oh, well, what about cleaning toilets? Yeah, a friend of mine actually does that for plumbers, right? Here's his contact. If you need a porta potty brought to an event, I really, they make those things so clean now. I mean, they have trailers and these things with granite countertops. I'm like, if you need something, I probably know it. If not, I have no problem. Like, I use social media for a lot of things. Hey, does anybody know this, right? And I get feedback.
Oh, and that's the thing. Like yesterday, I saw Nick posted on social media, hey, I need a plumber in Battle Creek. And a whole bunch of people replied, hey, what are you looking for? I know this guy, I know that guy. What are you looking? You had a ton of people reach out, didn't you?
Yeah, which was, I tried to do it all myself. We had a hot water heater in Battle Creek that went out. I called 15 people. One answered me and said, "Hey, I'll call the on-call technician," and I never got a phone call back. Right? So I was like, "This is crazy." One person. So I kept calling. I finally got a person that said, "Well, can we come out tomorrow morning?" And I was like, "Let me talk to the tenant, figure out how bad it is, because I mean, if water's going all over the place." So I talked to the tenant, had him shut the water off and do all that. But, um, I was like, wow, this is so frustrating. And I said, this is why relationships are key. And I threw it out there and hey, I know a plumber out there actually. I was like, this is perfect. Like just by asking for that little bit of help. I mean, granted, I was too stupid to ask for it. Now I know right away, hey, if I have an area that I don't know, I'm just gonna throw it out there first and then start my Google, and then I'll check and see if somebody's answered, right? So we have a guy in Charlotte right now, which is quite a ways away from us in Grand Rapids. So if anybody knows, it's what is that, like 4 or 5 hours?
Charlotte?
Yeah.
It's only a couple hours. I don't even think
okay?
it's 2 hours.
Might be.
It's this side of Lansing.
So this guy is getting charged like $650 for carpet cleaning. I'm like, oh, buddy, you're going to the wrong person. I pay like $150. I was like, so building that relationship is huge. So we want to go back to. I'm going to tell you guys the same tip that I gave to the first time home buyer. It's the same exact tip as buying your first rental. We talked about knowing a plumber, right? So build a team, right? So if you guys are worried about doing this and you don't know how to do things, that's fine. You don't need to know how to do things. I hired an electrician just yesterday, and we were talking about price, and he's like, I don't really care. He goes, if I need a plumber, I call a plumber. They come in because I'm not a plumber. And I was like, yep. He goes, I look for a good review and make sure that they're good people, and that's about what I look for. Or I get a referral from somebody. And I was like, he goes, I don't know how to do it. He goes, I'm an electrician. I was like, that makes sense, man. So, right, build a team, right? So think about all the things that you've done to your house, whether you like it or hate it. So, I mean, yeah, if you want to paint. If you hate painting, right, find a painter. Build that relationship, because after you do so many, you'll get it for a cheaper price, right? I mean, the more you do, the cheaper it'll get. So, hey, I need a painter to constantly go into my rental and paint it every tenant turn. If you don't know how to lay flooring, find a person that does flooring, right? Build that relationship with them. Heck yeah, man, I'll do a side job for you. If you don't know how to do heating and cooling, I mean, if you know how to do any of these, right, you're already more successful than some people. There's people out there, I have a friend that's an engineer, right? But not handy, right? Couldn't turn a screwdriver if he had to, but he could draw you a knee. So build a team around you that you have, right? I have a list on my refrigerator, so that way, in case I happen to be out of town for the week that I go away without my wife, well, the weekend, if anything goes wrong, if it's small, I have my brother go check it out. But if not, my wife knows, hey, I call Chris for heating and cooling. I call this person for plumbing. I call this person for a fire, right? I call this person. She knows everybody to call, and doesn't have to. She'll send me a text and go, hey, we got this, and I'll be like, okay, thanks, and then she just calls it and makes it happen, because my team of people will make sure that I stay and have a good time, right? I don't have that worry. I just know it'll get taken care of. Yes. Am I out there going, oh man, I really hope I don't come back home to something crazy, but I know that it's taken care of, and I'll deal with the mess when I get home, and it'll be fine. Normally it's just swipe a credit card, so I don't use credit card. I have everything debit. I will start using a credit card soon. I promise.
So here's a question for you.
Yep.
Since we're talking about first-time rentals.
Yep.
So I want to get into this. I want to start doing this.
Yeah. So we talked about, yeah.
What's my first step?
First step, you personally, right? So you own a house.
Yep, I own a house.
And you want to own a rental. So my first thing I would tell you is, David, give Rob a phone call and see if you can get financed, right? So I tell you, hey, can you get financed? And he'll say, yeah, we can finance you for this amount of money. So you're going to start looking for houses in that price range, duplexes, for you, anything you want, because he'll ask, he'll get all your details. He'll look at your bank statement and say, hey, you have this much money. Okay, you can put this much down. This is how much, and he'll let you know exactly what you can buy. Now, let's say you and the wife decide, yep, we want to rent our beautiful house here in Byron Center for a good amount of money, and we want to downgrade because our kid's not home. He's going to be like, all right, you can go put a small percent down on a place over here. So I think my first step is to find financing. Find somebody to pay for that house, because as much as you have the cash, nobody wants to put all the cash out at once. I leverage. I leverage, so I tell people to leverage. I also have a friend, again, as I said, he owns, I don't know, 50 houses free and clear. He's a cash only guy, right? He pays for his flip, does a big flip, gets a bunch of money, does like 2 or 3 of those, pays cash for a house, right? Pays cash and does the whole renovation, and then starts the process over again. Couple flips, pays cash for a fully renovated house. And he did that really young, and he's very successful now. There's other people like me who leverage. David, I would tell you, you're going to leverage, right? The good thing is you have equity in your home, so you could take money out for that, use it as your down payment. But you're Rob or any mortgage person will take a look at all of your financial looks, or where you're sitting, and they'll tell you what the best idea is, and what you can do with that money. So that's my first step for you.
Okay.
Now,
so let's say I found financing.
Yep.
How do I find what I want?
Sure. So there's multiple ways. Okay, multiple ways. So the normal common way to find what you're looking for, right? So you know exactly how much you can spend. Reach out to a realtor, right? Find a realtor that has any knowledge of rental properties. David, I know you have a realtor. I don't know if he's into the rentals, but let's say he's not. Let's say he's not into rentals and doesn't know a thing about it. I know that you love and respect your realtor, but he's not gonna respect your want for an investment. So he's just gonna say, yeah, you can buy this, so go buy it because you can. And the numbers aren't gonna be right. So find a realtor that's in it and say, hey, I'm looking for exactly what you want, right? I need to stay at this price. I need it to cash flow $100 a door at the end of it. And they're gonna understand that. And you're gonna go, okay, and they'll start looking for you. So find a realtor. Number 2, you can reach out to friends, reach out to family. Hey, do you guys know anybody that's looking to sell a rental, or looking to sell a place that they might not want? That's so start there, right? We talked about going to meetings. So there's always a real estate investor. Every day of the week, there's somebody going through a headache, right? So they're going to probably want to get rid of that headache. We take aspirin or Tylenol or ibuprofen, whatever you people call this, to relieve a headache. So the person might have a tenant that's just giving them a headache, especially now during COVID. So they're going to be like, you know what? I've made my money off of it. I don't want it. I'll sell it to you at this price. You deal with it. So you're going to get a headache for a little bit, and you're going to have hands-on learning, but it's an option to start and get a good deal on an investment. So reach out to those types of people, right? And then number three, I would say is, right, do it by yourself. You can send out mailers. Wholesalers do this type of a thing, but right. So let's say, David, I want a rental, but I want it to be in Byron Center because I want it to be by my house, right? So you can go onto the post office, right? The website, US Post Office, and say, I need every address for this area. And then you write out a note that says, hey, I'm David. I'm looking to buy a house in your area. If you're interested in selling, let me know. And yeah, it's going to cost you $2,000 to send postcards or whatever to all these people. But if you get one hit, chances are you're going to make the real estate transaction, right? Because they're looking to sell the house. So, if it appraises at 90,000, let's say for something, I mean, granted your area, let's say it appraises at 200,000 and you get it for 180, you've made 20K off of a $2,000 investment, right? It's all a matter of how bad do you want it and what you're willing to do. Yeah, the easy way, find a realtor. I mean, right now the MLS multiple or listing services, right? It's a realtors use it as a website. They'll set you up with portals and things like that. They can only tell you about what's listed. Now, again, when you find a realtor that is real estate minded, a lot of rentals aren't listed on there because people don't want to know they're for sale. They don't want to scare tenants. Because tenants, once they see a house for sale, tenants get crazy scared because they either get scared or they love it, right? So their landlord's either that horrible or they love their landlord and that's why they're staying there, right? Again, it's just like a job. You don't leave a job you hate, you leave a boss you hate. So so tenants are one of two things. They stay forever because they love who you are, or they buy a house. I mean, so, I guess there is the job leave and that's why they're gone. But most people will stay for quite a while if you give them a situation that they love. So, I tend to not have the highest rent. I tend to offer really hands-on service, really great. So if they contact me, I go, that type of a thing. But so find the headache. And then again, if you let's say you find a single family that the owner just is tired of, you're going to go, hey, I got to move in here. So you instantly send the 30-day notice that says, oh, I got to acquire this property within 30 days because I now own it and I'm not going to live in here and you're rental, or the opposite, right? So you come in, you try with them and say, hey, I'm the new landlord. And if it doesn't work out, then go with that. Because if you don't want to leave your house and you want to have the first rental out there, that's the biggest thing I would do for step number 2.
So when I posted that this is what we were talking about, a former classmate of mine who also we worked at the same place together, and literally I've known this guy since I was like 2 or 3. He said, I was an unintentional landlord for about 2 years when we rented our house in Michigan while living in Arizona. First rule of being a landlord would be solid renter's agreement and don't rent to family and friends.
Hey, yep, that's a big thing. So my advice on that, I break all those rules or have broken all those rules. We talked about that. My first one being a lined piece of paper, right? So yes, have a solid rental agreement that states everything. Again, we have the RPOA. I'm not a member of, but there's an RPOA all over, right? Rental Property Owners Association. They will give you what the government has approved as a lease, right? And you can add to it and all that, but that's the not bare minimum. That's what they're saying. Hey, this covers everything. You have a lease official. So, guys, if you're starting out, find anybody that has a rental and say, hey, do you have a lease for me? And they're probably going to have a lease. If not, then, you could probably teach them something. So, when it comes to don't rent to family and friends, I make that mistake. I'm not afraid to admit it, but you have to understand what you're getting yourself into, right? So you have to be financially in a spot to where you can deal with that. You have to be willing to lose that relationship with your family if things go wrong, because it will go wrong. This is a promise. I mean, there's no perfect thing, right? Let's say taxes get raised, ridiculous, and you have to go to them and say, hey, I have to raise your rent. I mean, these are all things that are going to happen. Nobody lives the exact way you live. So I'll be honest, I rent to my brother, right? And he gets a cheap rent because we talked about when I go away, he's kind of my on call, like, hey, I need you to go do this. I don't get, oh man, no, I can't. No, I get, all right, man, I'll get a handle for you. I'm so fortunate for that, right? But that's why I give him that rent. I lost my job, and I talked to him, and I was like, man, it's been like a year since I raised your rent, and he's like, oh, I've lived there 4 years, and you've never raised my rent. And I was like, oh, so like I fail at that. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. But you know, he threw that little oh crap, and I was like, it's not gonna be much, you know. So we have to have that conversation, and it's hard. It's easy to tell somebody you don't technically have a personal connection with, hey, I'm gonna raise the rent. But when you have that personal connection and you have to sit across the kitchen table from them when they eat dinner and they know they pay you bills, or they pay you money, it's hard. It's hard, right? But it can work, right? It can work. You know, rent to friends. I've done it. Does it work out? No. Honestly, I've never had any luck with friends. I rented to a friend, and his friend actually still rents for me, but my friend, right? It was all the excuses. I can't pay. Hey man, well, and I'm like, I was, you know, I'm always driven because I was broke, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to fund you to stay there. So I had that, and I had the mentor knowledge to say, hey, no, this is exactly what you have to do. Don't take it, and blah blah. So, but there, you know, if you're a pushover kind of a person, you don't want to do that, right? So keep yourself out of that if you can. If you make the mistake, make sure you have knowledge of other people to guide you to make sure you can get through that. And I guarantee forever, right? You'll hear those words. This is why you don't rent to family and friends. This is why. And I'm like, yep. And I just shake it out, and I still make the mistake. I'm not gonna lie to you. I still make the mistake.
Well, I think a good rule of thumb is, you know, it's the same as loaning money to friends and family. If you're loaning that money, you better expect not to get it back.
Yeah. If you can't afford it, don't do it.
Correct.
So, you know, we've been fortunate in some of the things that we've done. Do I do it all right? No, but I can't say I feel unstoppable. But man, I have a big head start having a mentor, so that's huge.
Well, I think that's a big thing, because even like with me, so when I stopped being a head coach and I went to be an assistant coach, you know, the guy I'm assistant coaching for is one of my former assistants. And when he brought me in, he said to everybody, listen, this was my mentor. He's the one that started me in coaching. He taught me a lot of things. And everybody's like, oh, so you're older than coach. And I'm like, no, I'm younger than him. I just started way early.
So it doesn't matter. Yeah. Age isn't a thing. It's knowledge and time, right? So hey, Caitlin, she's gonna buy a rental too. So
Eventually she is.
yeah, just say, you know, and Caitlin's a single person who would be perfect for house hacking, right? Get a couple friends into the same place. That's when you can rent to friends, right? I feel like that's when you can rent to friends. I mean, you're still gonna have that problem, but you're already used to paying that mortgage by yourself. And so when your friend says, hey, I can't pay this month, this week, however you charge it, you're gonna put up with it, but you're gonna have to put on your bootstraps and say, hey, I'm sorry, you gotta go. You know, this person's paying. I need you to pay so it's fair, so we don't have fights with everybody. You have to just know that you're gonna if you can have that conversation with people, you'll be successful. If you can't, I don't think you'll be successful. And success is defined in so many different ways, right? Most, you know, and that's where you find most people instead of having the conversation, they just go to a realtor and say, hey guys, I'm just going to sell the house, and they take like the easy way out, and they're like, okay, cool, I'm going to move into my, you know, so they restart. So no harm, no foul type of a thing, but you find that quite a bit. So
I think we've gone over a lot of great stuff here tonight, Nick, and I know we're going to do other rental episodes in the future, because obviously we literally just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
Which honestly, we kind of just scratched the surface of everything we talk about every week that we talk. If you had one grand piece of advice to give everybody that's looking for that first rental, hit me with it.
Throw out 1 million offers, and you'll catch a fish. Right? So take action is the biggest thing. Don't talk about it, do it, right? So if you say, hey, I want a rental, right? I mean, I talk about this with David all the time. David, what are you doing? Well, we're looking. Well, we're looking. Okay, how many offers have you put in? Well, we're looking. Nope, nope. You know what? I don't care if this house is 300,000. You put a $150,000 offer in it because that's what cash flows. If it cash flows at this price, that's what the price you put it in at. So, right, start running numbers and be active. Don't just run numbers. Be active. Throw it out there, right? Find a realtor that is willing to be pissed off, right? Because you're throwing out stupid things. There's not a million realtors out there that will let you just. They're gonna get tired of you just throwing out crap offers all the time. I had this conversation with my mentor today because we talked about the big purchase, and I was like, I once offered $50,000 less on a house that was listed for 60,000. Yeah, right. Because you never know until you ask, right? You start somewhere, and yeah, chances are you won't even get any feedback or anything like that, but at least you tried. I mean, making the attempt is the biggest key. Right now we're at that point where it's like, hey, at least we're trying. So, um, that's my biggest tip for everybody that wants to get into it. Start putting in offers to say, because one's going to land eventually, and you can actually learn from every single one of them, right? You'll probably get feedback from a realtor. You'll probably get feedback, and your first feedback's probably gonna be, oh, we should have offered more. That'll be your first couple. The second, if you find one and you happen to lose it, it won't be we should have offered more. It'll be like, well, we should probably look for something that cash flows better, right? So you'll get this knowledge. So biggest tip right there.
So went over a lot of stuff. Obviously, this is our first official podcast of Bucks and Brews.
Bucks and Brews.
So, those of you that have been watching us, we really appreciate you. That's fantastic. Those of you that haven't hopefully been watching us, you'll find us on podcasts out there. Like I said, we're on Apple. We'll be on Google pretty soon. We're on Stitcher. Nick, hit me with your favorite line.
I say, guys, favorite line, because YouTube, right? Like, subscribe, share, podcast, all the things. Subscribe to our channel. One thing we always do ask, anybody that wants to throw a sponsor out there for some beer, we will drink, even if it's homemade beer, we will drink your beer, your wine, your ciders. We will try it, give you a decent review on it. We really appreciate all the feedback we get. So leave a comment, let us know things, and we appreciate you guys.
Yep, and thanks again for joining us, and we'll catch you next week. We got some really cool things in store coming up here, so I think you guys are gonna like it.